If you are looking to get your first Research Bureau ship, well, I will have some opinions and thoughts of the best ship that you can buy with your first income of research points. Now, I will be explaining everything that you need to know about the research point ships and which ship you should buy, especially if it's the first one. Let me talk about this in detail. Well, before talking about the first Research Bureau ship itself that you should buy first, I want to showcase you a variety of ships that you can buy. There are battleships out there like Sicilia, Slava, Ohio, as well as some cruisers with different characteristics like Colbert, Gibraltar, Sevastopol, and even destroyers like Druid and Vampire 2, and even some tier 9 ships, which including some cruisers and battleship and even a destroyer at tier 9. So which one of them should be your first pick? Well, it's actually pretty straightforward in my opinion, because the recent Research Bureau ships that they have added are simply not to my likings. I would say the older Research Bureau ships like Ohio, Vampire 2, and maybe even the Druid, a couple of more ships like, for example, even the Slava, they are really excel at what it does. And I will be explaining this quickly so that you will be figuring it out yourself whether you should buy it or not. Okay, so the first ship I would highly recommend that you should spend your hard-earned Research Bureau points on is going to be the Tier 10 American battleship Ohio. Ohio is one of the most versatile and powerful battleship that Wargaming has added, and it is still truly performs so much good in randoms and even in competitive environments like clan battles and ranked battles. It is an absolute monster. Let me explain why it is really powerful and you should invest your research points in this ship. Now, first of all, Ohio is a very old Research Bureau ship. It was added when the Research Bureau section itself added in this game. And when it was added, Wargaming has an intention that the older players should be having something to grind and grind again without just waiting for the new lines to come. Like, for example, now the Libertad line or maybe the newest lines like Cassard. We are waiting for them, but instead of waiting for those ships alone, Wargaming has decided to give us this Research Bureau section in which you can get some extra new ships along the regrinding lines that you already have grinded before. So Ohio is really powerful, okay? Reason? 457mm guns. At that time, like a couple of years ago, these guns were amazing. It is still amazing. 8 guns with 27.5 seconds of reload time is extremely powerful with 2.0 Sigma, which is excellent for battleship, and combined with the fact that American ships usually get this artillery plotting room mod 2, which improves the main battery shell dispersion. 2.0 Sigma with this insanely good reload time means that the Ohio will absolutely smash battleships with some decent accuracy out there. To put that into perspective, the Montana, which is a Tech 3 counterpart, has 12 guns, but they don't have overmatch of 30mm. Ohio has 30mm overmatch, better penetration than Montana simply because of the higher caliber guns, as well as better Sigma. Montana has 1.9, Ohio has 2.0, or even the Vermont has 1.95 Sigma. Ohio is better in its accuracy overall with the tight grouping of the shells within that dispersion ellipse, even though the dispersion ellipse is going to be pretty much similar to Montana and Vermont with the dispersion mod at slot 6. It is still really, really good. Now, one more thing that is really good about the Ohio is that it has secondaries. Secondaries, even though they don't have much penetration, only 21mm, but the secondaries have pretty decent firing range of 11.3 kilometers if you build for it, like for example I did on Halsey. Halsey is an amazing American captain, and especially in the case of Ohio because of the secondaries that can do some substantial damage to destroyers, and because of that you have a good chance of getting Confederate, which means that you will get a straight buff on 20% reload time on not only these guns but I'm quite sure maybe on the secondaries. I'm not sure about that, but the guns reload is always nice. 20% buff is huge in my opinion, especially on these guns which hurts like crazy. Alpha damage is almost 16,000, which is very respectively high for 457mm guns. Ohio has pretty insane alpha damage. HE shells are also not bad, 6,500 alpha damage. It's not like Conqueror's 7,300, or even maybe Yamato or Bungo's 7,000-ish HE alpha damage, but the fire chance with this HE alpha on Ohio is at least that good that if there are battleships angling around you, you can just switch to HE. With the help of this captain, you can always get this improved gun feeder, which improves this shell switching time by 60%, which does help a lot in getting from AP to HE within no time, and you can just absolutely smash with even these HE shells. Secondaries are really, really good. Just like I said, the penetration is not enough, but still. Airstrikes are 11 kilometer. They used to be pretty terrible. Ohio, in Wargaming's perspective, is so strong that they have added that instead of making its airstrikes normal against submarines, when submarines added in randoms, what they have decided to give the Ohio a pitiful 5-kilometer range, which is basically non-existent in use. Like, you cannot use it any possible way against those tier 10 submarines that are absolutely nightmarish to deal with. Ohio used to have this problem, but finally they have realized it, that they are really messing up this Ohio and really, messing up the players, pissing up the players a lot. So they just buffed it back to 11 kilometers. So there is no issue in that whatsoever. The anti-defense is also pretty decent, combined with the fact that you can either use spotting aircraft or fighter. Fighter is, I would say, a better choice, simply because if you use fighter, this is like my opinion, because I find so many carriers apparently nowadays, I mean, there are hybrids, but even then, you can prevent the strikes by using these fighter planes. But if you are not really feeling the carrier really hurts you and your gameplay, spotting aircraft does increase the range, which on the Ohio is slightly on the lower side at only 22 kilometers almost. So spotting aircraft does help in that increasing range. So that's why Ohio is really good. You put the secondaries, it does not really affect your main battery dispersion, because the main battery dispersion improvement is on slot 6 instead of slot 3 that you find on usual other ships. So you can always put secondary battery mod 1, improving the dispersion and range, and also you can put damage control mod 1. Ohio is an absolute kicker, with Halsey especially. Concealment is okayish. I'm not gonna say it's the best. I mean, I haven't made the concealment with Ohio with the help of Halsey, but still, you can always build it with concealment. It can go down to like 14-ish kilometers. Maneuverability is pretty much typical of battleships, so don't expect that much. But still, its handling is actually better than Montana, with its rudder shift time better than Montana's. So definitely, it is that good in that regard. Overall, Ohio have really good armor, 38mm sights, which basically means that at least a lot of those HE spam coming from Smolensk or light cruisers like Colbert, it will simply shatter. At least you will not going to get so much penetration damage. And even like Worcester will not be able to penetrate this deck, since I believe that they can able to get only 37mm pen. And even the Guden Lews that have, I think, 37mm pen or 36mm pen on their airstrikes, definitely help Ohio a lot in tanking a lot and taking less damage in general. So these guns are really good, as well as the armor is really nice. So overall, Ohio is very good pick. The only thing about the Ohio that I don't like is compared to today's standards. I mean, if you ask me like 4 or 5 years ago, this speed would be okay. It has 29.4 knots of speed. I'm sorry, guys. But I mean, if you put out the speed flag, it gets down to 28 knots. So it is actually pretty low compared to even Montana's 30 knots. And even the main has, I think, 30.5 knots of speed, if I'm not wrong. So it is definitely on the lower side, especially by today's standards, where Loria has 37 knots, and even some other ships like Incomparable has, like, with speed boost, like around 38, 39-ish knots. A lot of other ships are having faster speed, so Ohio is kind of lacking in that department. But still, guns, performance, I just forget that, guys. I think I should be just talking about the repair party. The thing about Ohio that makes it kicker is this improved healing cooldown. Like it has 8.8 seconds of cooldown time, so it will just keep healing faster and faster within like 40 seconds, which is crazy. You can heal up so much damage if you are tanking and pushing in and brawling in Ohio. It is still very relevant in 2024 and still better than other research bureau ships, in my opinion. I have explained Ohio in detail, so I believe that this is the first ship that you should get in research bureau section if you really like battleships. But if you don't like battleships and you are looking to play as destroyer main, I think one more ship that I would highly recommend is going to be the Vampire 2. Vampire 2 is kinda resembles to that of Daring. Now, Vampire 2 is a Commonwealth destroyer, okay? But the Daring and Vampire 2 feels pretty similar. There are a couple of differences because of the nation flavor, I would say. Vampire 2 obviously having speed boost on already good acceleration that they have built in to the Vampire 2 and Daring. The guns are pretty much similar. Daring is obviously a Tech 3 Tier 10 British destroyer. Vampire 2 is a premium. So always remember that premium earns you more credits and have reduced service costs. Always remember this is the best thing that you can have, at least with a premium destroyer or premium ship in general. Main guns are pretty similar, slightly better DPM buff compared to Daring's, like it's like 10%. I think the Daring has 2.3 or 2.4 seconds of reload time with the reload mod. Vampire has 2.1 seconds of reload time, so it is definitely slightly better. But on the other hand, Vampire 2 comes up with extra, which is speed boost. It comes up with crawling smoke generator. And the reason why Vampire 2 is interesting is because of this crawling smoke as well as the hydro. Hydro is 5 kilometer, which means that, and I mean, I didn't even talk about the concealment, 5.8 kilometer concealment, 5 kilometer hydro, very small buffer. You can actually able to push into DDs with this crawling smoke because the smoke crawls along the way you are moving, and the smoke will keep moving with you, which helps to disengage in just a couple of seconds. And if you push in and pop the hydro, you can actually catch destroyers off guard that are within 5 kilometers, which is really powerful. And combined with the fact that you have these Daring guns that have really good HE, it depends on superstructures of all ships in the game, because 19mm is, I think, the standard of all the superstructure of the ships out there, as well as the good AP. Like if you try AP on broadside destroyers, which is highly recommend, you will get all the penetration. You will not going to get those usual overpens that you get on destroyers because of the reduced arming threshold, I would say, or I would say the short fuse time. So the range is pretty respectable, and crawling smoke lasts for almost more than 2 minutes. So definitely helps a lot. Even though the Daring smokes, in my personal opinion, are way better than Vampire 2, but Vampire 2 does have this crawling smoke that can be pretty handy when you are trying to farm battleship and farming him to just kill him like within like 1-2 minutes. Daring can do that. You have to disengage and you have to smoke up again. You utilize your smoke. Vampire 2 have to basically utilize his smoke effectively. If you get a battleship that keeps pushing you, you can actually use not only the crawling smoke and the guns, but also these torpedoes. Now, torpedoes compared to Daring is less, which is 5, but they have high damage, they have more range, and you can use, again, just like Daring, single launch torpedoes. Like you can just pinpoint the drops of these torpedoes on a bow-in pushing battleship, and you have a good chance of hitting all of them since you can just single launch them. So very good thing like Daring. But again, speed boost can come in very handy, and hydro is different than Daring. It's long range but short duration. Daring has short range but long duration, so that is very interesting. I would say overall, if you are looking to get the alternate of Daring, which has still some versatility and still has a lot of utilities and having really good hydro and long lasting smoke, which can crawl along the way if you move, this ship is really nice. Yeah, you don't have heals, I can understand. The Daring has heals, which just gives insane survivability on Daring. Vampire 2 does not have that. and that's kind of a big downside of Vampire 2. But still, this crawling smoke can help. It's not going to be helping you a lot if you're having the crawling smoke on cooldown and CV try to hunt you down, because if your crawling smoke is not there, it will take a long time. Unlike Daring's short smoke, which just quickly deployed whenever you want to do it. In the case of Vampire 2, you won't be able to do that. You have to wait for some time, which is like around 30 to 40 seconds. You can see here the action time and the time between cooldown time. There is some bit of a buffer, or I would say time, before you will get another consumable of crawl smoke generator. Vampire 2 is definitely a very nice pick. After Ohio, or maybe if you are a destroyer main, definitely better pick for sure. Well, I might even want to add one thing, which is that your turning circle and the speed is pretty much similar to that of Daring's, only slightly bit of an improved rudder shift, like 0.2 seconds if I'm not wrong. But obviously, with the help of speed boost, you will be able to get across the map, across the caps, and getting to the points where you want to go. Or, I mean, if you are trying to pushing from one area to other, this speed boost will definitely increase the speed for like up to around 38 or 39 knots or 40 knots almost, which is very much better than Daring. Daring does not have access to speed boost, so obviously speed juking will be a lot much more viable in Vampire 2, because engine boost definitely accelerates you faster. And that's why Vampire 2 is a very nice destroyer pick. It can really win games if you know what you're doing. Obviously, the lack of heals and short smokes that the Daring has, it loses that flexibility, but in return it gets some other things which are pretty nice on Vampire 2, which I have explained. So definitely these two ships are, in my opinion, are the best first picks for the Research Bureau's points. Okay, so this ship that I'm showing you is probably only going to be a bonus ship. I mean, if you have a chance of getting Slava after maybe Vampire 2 or Ohio, I think then it might be a viable option. Now, Slava is having a niche, a very specific niche, and that's why Slava is interesting for that absurd amount of research points. To be honest, it's costing you a lot of regrinds, but still Slava is in 2024 still very, very interesting. Want to talk about the Slava a bit, because these guns have penetration unlike anything in World of Warships. The penetration of Slava is actually excelling to like that of Satsuma. Even like no one really even comes close than Slava's penetration capabilities with his only 406mm guns. So Slava having bunker penetration, the shell velocity is insanely fast. These shell go faster than, I don't know, maybe the Ferrari or something. I mean, these shell having some insane shell speed, which basically means that you can get across the map with these shells quickly and get those citadels on even long range 20 to 22 kilometer battleships. You can easily citadel them. And obviously, since shells are not archy, they are super flat, super fast. Most likely, the effective armor of those broadside ships or maybe slightly angled battleships will be sort of a lot much more less in value compared to other archy shells of those battleships. For example, like Montana, any other battleship that has archier shells, Slava will be having even more value from these insanely flat arcs and insane speed. So the penetration is amazing. The only thing about the Slava that is really nowadays falling it apart is its really poor survivability. Slava used to have 32mm armor when it was testing. Remember, it was testing, but they have decided, because the gun performance is so powerful and so good, they decided to make it a sniper niche role and have given pretty much one of the, I would say, not the best armor. I won't say the worst armor, but it is really one of the worst armors in my opinion, except for this Citadel armor belt, which is, I would say, relatively tanky It might not looks like to be, but it is still definitely very vulnerable to a lot of newer battleship caliber guns, like for example Satsuma, Incomparable, those having enough penetration to just punch around 17 to 18 kilometers even on broadside Slava. But still, the 25 millimeter from the stern and 25 millimeter of the bow is definitely a lot much, making it handicapped compared to other battleships at this tier. You cannot push in this. I mean, if someone knows that you are pushing in, and any good accurate battleship guns, which I would say there are a lot of them, for example Loria, Satsuma, Incomparable, there are so many examples, Wisconsin, Mecklenburg cannot overmatch it, but still, even the Bourgogne with the 380 millimeter guns can simply overmatch that bow. So you are going to be having a very failed engagement when you are pushing in. So this is where Slava really suffers. The torpedo protection is also not going to be really good. Also, to just make its capabilities of the guns balanced, because the guns are insanely good, you will have more and more consistency in getting citadels on basically any battleship or a heavy cruiser at long ranges so easily that they have decided to reduce the alpha damage on these guns. It has 12,000 alpha damage on AP shells, which is terribly bad. To put things into perspective, Montana has 13.5k, Bungo also have 13.5k, and other ships like Conqueror have even more alpha damage than these alpha on the Slava. So definitely Slava suffers from this, and that's why Slava definitely feels a bit short in its alpha damage. But obviously you get a lot of citadel damage, and I have improved it even though with Vasily Zenemensky. I mean, it's not specifically related to Commander, but it's related to this skill, super heavy AP shells, but it only increases 1000 more AP alpha, which is also still not close to Montana's 13.5k. And that's where the Slava definitely suffers as well. Really bad armor, 32 millimeter, definitely going to be making shells a lot much more penetration, I would say, by so many other cruisers with IFHE, as well as the superstructure is big. So there are so many things that makes Slava's survivability pretty weak. Airstrike is normal, anti-defense is good, but I'm not gonna say really good, but it is still be able to defend himself. It's not like Kremlin's weak armament of AA, where it's just going to just die with just a couple of HE shells, because the Kremlin AA HP pool, the AA armaments of Kremlin is actually having half HP compared to normal battleships AA HP, I would say. Slava has normal 100% AA HP or survivability, if you ask me. So Slava will still going to retain its anti-defense even by getting a lot much more HE spam. But there's obviously so many other powerful ships like San Vincent, Thunder, Conqueror. So yeah, still the A is going to be sort of doom and gloom even at late games. So there's that. The concealment is actually better than Kremlin. It's, I think, having like 13 kilometer. Maybe it's similar to Kremlin. I'm exactly not sure. But if you build the Slava for it, like it's around 13-ish kilometers, which is okay. But there are ships like Loria with having better concealment, Wisconsin with having better concealment, and Thunder, all these ships have better concealment. The recently released battleships does have better concealment than Slava, so it's definitely falling short. Overall, still, if you're looking to get the battleship with this unique niche of just citadeling battleships at long ranges, Slava does it with no problems whatsoever. Otherwise, it's just a pretty much obviously overall a weak ship, I would say, compared to other battles that we have now in the game. Slava feels not that strong anymore. It's kind of getting like power crapped, I would say. I don't want to say it for Slava, but it's definitely now power crapped. There are so many better battleships that it's not even funny. But anyway, guys, I will just end this video. I have talked so much about 3 of these ships. I'm not sure, and I'm not gonna say about any other ship. I have all of them, by the way, but I'm not gonna say that those ships are really worth it. You should try to invest on either the Vampire 2 first, or I would say the Ohio first, okay? Because it's about the first research bureau ship, okay? It's not about that which ship should I get after that? Which ship should I get after that? It's about the first research bureau ship. So I think there are a couple of ships. I just put Slava as a bonus, and hence why I just talked about it, even though it's not super good in today's standards, to be honest. But only in specific niches, it's definitely still interesting. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you liked the video. If you do like it, please comment, like, and subscribe. And I will catch you guys into the next one. Peace out.